I live in a big house by a country road in Pennsylvania. Love the outdoors, and often I go hiking, hunting, fishing, or ride my ATV whenever I get a day off from work. And there's a massive forest behind my house, and I've had countless adventures in those woods. Sometimes during the night, animals visit my backyard. I don't mind, they don't never cause any trouble, but I got a security camera that monitors the backyard just in case. Most of the time, it's just deer, foxes, and one time a black bear. There ain't a lot of houses in my area, so animals are essentially my neighbors. Last year, I invited my friends and family to my place for a barbecue cookout during the 4th of July. The adults and I were on the deck telling silly stories of things that happened at work. Their children were either out playing in the backyard shooting Nerf guns at each other or inside playing games. And after the party ended, I cleaned up around the house. Around 10 p.m., I was in the living room watching the news and started to hear loud shrieks coming from the woods. I turned on the lights in the backyard and looked through the kitchen window, but saw nothing. I didn't think much of it, just assumed it was just some cougar. I've seen them a few times throughout the summer while hiking in the forest late at night, so I just turned off the lights and went back to bed. Next morning, I decided to check the security camera to see if any animals came by my backyard, but nothing happened that night. I was off from work that day, so I took my ATV and ventured in the woods. About 10 minutes of driving through the forest, I came across the remains of a buck deer covered in claw marks laying in the dirt. His eyes and tongue were ripped out, and after looking a little closer, there was a massive slit under the belly, and all of its organs were removed. I just brushed it off though, and just continued to ride my ATV through the forest. After about 20 minutes gone by, I got thirsty and stopped by a small rocky cliff near the creek. I drank my water while sitting on the cliff. It was pretty relaxing hearing the calm stream of water and the birds chirping in the trees. I saw a red-tailed hawk swoop down in the water and grab a large fish. It was incredible, and things like that is why I love going in the woods. Just when I was about to go back to the ATV and drive home, I noticed the corpse of a young man was lying on the bottom of the cliff, and blood was smeared all over the rocks around the body. I walked down a nearby hill to get a closer look, and much like the buck I saw earlier, the corpse was covered in claw marks, and the tongue, eyes, and organs were all ripped out. That was pretty unsettling to see, so I just took some pictures and showed them to the police when I got home. The police recovered the human corpse for further investigation and told me to contact them if I ever found anything else suspicious in the forest. After they left, I went to a diner for lunch with my best friend George. And I told George, something strange been going on in the woods, and I said, I came across the husk of a deer and later a young man. Both of them had all their organs, eyes, and tongues extracted by something. And after hearing that, George had a curious look on his face. I recently got a job with the local police, and there have been numerous reports of cattle and even human corpses with the same conditions for the past week, said George. What George was telling me was making me real uneasy. Some of the farmers think it might be aliens abducting people and animals, but that's just ridiculous, George said as he asked for a refill on his coffee. And then he noticed the nervous look on my face. What's wrong? You think aliens are doing this? George laughed. Nah, that ain't possible. There ain't no way that's possible. I'm probably still in shock from what happened in the woods earlier, Nuss said. George just nodded his head. I'd be spooked too, if I was in your shoes at least. Well, at least you didn't go Logan Paul recording the dead body, just making a joke out of it, said George. His joke made me chuckle a little. After lunch, I just headed home. And as much as I love the outdoors, I didn't feel safe going in the woods anymore, so I locked all my doors and windows and played on my PS4 for the rest of the afternoon. When it got dark outside, I started hearing the same screaming that I heard last night. And I went and turned on the lights in the backyard, and for a split second I saw a pair of big eyes in the woods, reflecting the lights, before rushing back deep into the shrubbery. And I kept hearing the screaming throughout the night, so I went to bed with headphones on and listened to relaxing music. And just in case, I had a pocket pistol under my pillow for when something unwanted entered my room. Luckily, I was able to sleep well for the night. When I had breakfast the next morning, and I checked the security camera, nothing came by my backyard until 3:17 a.m. And I couldn't believe my eyes. I saw some hairy humanoid thing with like 6 long limbs crawling in my backyard. and had dark shaggy hair hanging from him like an orangutan. And there was an arm directly on top of each shoulder. It had these big glowing eyes with no pupils, massive claws on each hand, and its mouth was gaping open with some long, sharp teeth. It was dragging a massive bear covered in claw marks. The creature then began to eat the bear, but rather than just devouring it, the beast cut open the belly and ate the organs inside. It also ate the eyes and the tongue. When the creature was finished eating, it came back to the door and scratched on it like a dog trying to get inside. It snarled and slowly crawled its way back to the woods, only leaving behind the bear's skin and bones. And of all the years I spent in the woods, I ain't never seen anything like that. I went to my backyard and sure enough, the empty husk of a bear was lying in the grass. I checked my door and luckily there ain't no damage, but I went ahead and called the police immediately. George came with me. I showed them the bear husk and security footage.
Oh my god, what is that? This is horrifying, man. Whatever that thing is, it's probably the one who killed all those people and animals.
George cried. Thankfully, I wasn't the only one freaked out by that video footage. George and the other officer decided to contact the state police. Shortly after, a squadron came and they searched the forest. And after several hours, they didn't find nothing, so they left the area. When I came home from work that night, I began to hear the same screaming sounds coming from the woods. I was outside and I heard the sound much clearer. It sounded like a dog or a hyena, but much deeper. And I couldn't just let this creature kill people and their livestock. I wanted to end this once and for all. And I grabbed my hunting shotgun, pocket pistol, cell phone, and flashlight, and then I headed off in the woods. And as I journeyed into the forest, screams echoed all over the place. The creature could be heard anywhere. Suddenly, I saw it several yards away from me, into the insides of an elk. Carefully aimed my gun at the monster, then noticed me as well. I pulled the trigger and shot it. The beast fell over, but quickly got up, brushing out the bullets in its chest. The bullets didn't even penetrate the skin. That creature gave out a loud, enraged roar, and it started charging on me on all 6 limbs. And I shot it 4 more times, but it only knocked it off its balance. My gun suddenly got jammed, and the creature jumped towards me. And I swung my shotgun at its head like a baseball bat. I heard its neck snap, and the creature cried in pain. It fell to the ground, and its top pair of arms snapped its head back in place. And the creature snarled at me and ran deeper into the woods. I tried shooting it with my pocket pistol, but the creature got away. And exhausted, and I walked back to my house. And I checked my phone and said it was 11 p.m. So I locked everything in my house and went to bed. And I was woken up to the noise of loud banging at my door at 4 in the morning. I put on a pair of night vision goggles and looked through the window. I was startled when I saw, not 1, but 3 of those ape creatures standing under my deck. One of them was able to smash the door open, and they started to crawl in my house one by one. Terrified, I tried calling 911, but my phone died, and I could hear the beast walking through the house. And the monster started to look around the place, interacting with the objects around them, and I heard them knocking over my coffee maker and my refrigerator opening. One of them even began eating the food inside. Then I noticed that one of the monsters was standing underneath the chandelier, right next to the front door. I shot the chain holding the chandelier and it fell on top of the beast. And then I rushed down the stairs into the front door, and the other 2 creatures started to chase me. One of them ran over the broken glass and started crying in pain. The last one tried crawling over the wall around the glass like an insect. And I quickly put on some shoes and ran for my car. And just when I was about to start the engine, the ape creature slammed into my car, nearly pushing it over. And I started the engine and drove away from my house as fast as possible. I headed to a hotel near a highway and asked for a room on the top floor, and I spent the rest of the night there sleeping. Luckily, I was able to charge up my phone in the hotel room. Called off work the next morning telling them I was sick, and then I called police. Except for the back door and my chandelier, not much was damaged in my house. When the police investigated my house, all the creatures were gone. However, the police were able to find some clumps of black hair around the house, as well as some blood around the broken glass. And the samples of blood and hair they collected at the crime scene has only added more mystery of what happened. At first, it didn't seem like anything unusual, but One of the scientists in the crime lab discovered that their chemical makeup wasn't purely organic, and that it seemed unexpectedly mechanical, basically an organic machine. And the samples were then sent to a hospital lab for further research, and I began repairing the house. I installed a much stronger back door this time. I also adopted a young German Shepherd from the animal shelter. I take her with me whenever I go in the woods and stayed out of there whenever it was dark outside. And I ain't even see the creature since then, but every once in a while I hear them screaming in the woods. And occasionally there are still reports in the local newspaper of animal and human husks being found in my area. And every time I'm reminded of those things, I keep asking myself, what are they? But more importantly, how many more are there out there?